In the heart of a bustling city, where skyscrapers gleamed under the sun and people rushed about their busy lives, there lived a man named Adrian Kane. He was one of the wealthiest men in the country, known for his real estate empire, sharp business deals, and icy demeanor. To the world, Adrian seemed untouchable, a man who had everything yet wanted nothing more. But behind the walls of his glass tower, Adrian lived in silence. His mansion was grand, but lonely. His heart was heavy with the scars of a past he never spoke about. One rainy evening, as his driver stopped at a red light near the old hospital district, Adrian's eyes caught a small figure sitting on the pavement. It was a young girl, no older than 10, wrapped in a thin blanket that did little against the cold. Her face was pale, her eyes large and tired, yet they shimmered with something unusual hope. She wasn't begging. She wasn't asking for coins. Instead, she clutched a worn-out storybook with faded illustrations. Adrian frowned. "Stop the car," he said suddenly. He stepped out into the rain, his tailored suit soaking instantly. The girl looked up at him with surprise. "Why are you out here alone?" he asked. The girl smiled faintly. "I'm waiting for the story to come true. My mom said, one day, a miracle will find me." Like in the fairy tales, her voice trembled. But her belief was unshaken. Adrian's chest tightened. He hadn't believed in miracles for a long time. "What's your name?" he asked. "Leela," she whispered. "I'm sick. The hospital said I need a surgery, but we don't have enough money. So, I'm just waiting for my fairy tale." For the first time in years, Adrian felt something stir in his cold heart. He didn't know why, but in that moment, he wanted to be the miracle she was waiting for. The next morning, Adrian couldn't shake the image of Leela from his mind. He called his assistant and demanded to know everything about her. Within hours, he learned the heartbreaking truth. Leela's father had abandoned the family years ago. Her mother worked endless shifts at a factory, and Leela's illness was worsening. Without surgery, her chances were slim. Adrian clenched his fists. Money had always been a weapon in his world, a tool to conquer rivals, expand empires, and silence critics. But for once, he wanted his money to mean something different. That evening, he returned to the hospital. Without introducing himself, he spoke to the doctors, signed the necessary papers, and transferred the funds anonymously. He gave strict instructions. The girl's treatment is to start immediately. No one must know who paid. When Leela's mother received the news, she broke down in tears, hugging her daughter. "Leela, do you see? Miracles are real." The girl beamed, her fragile hands holding the storybook closer. "I told you, Mama. My fairy tale has begun." Meanwhile, Adrian stood outside the hospital window, watching them silently. For the first time in years, he felt a strange warmth, a sense of purpose. But Leela wasn't just grateful. She was curious. Who was her mysterious benefactor? She asked every nurse, every doctor, and even peeked through the hospital doors whenever someone important passed by. Her fairy tale hero had given her a chance at life, but she longed to meet him. Leela's surgery was successful, and her recovery was slow but steady. She would spend hours drawing pictures of castles, kings, and princesses in her sketchbook, whispering, "One day, I'll thank my hero." Adrian visited the hospital often, but always in secret. He would stand by the door, leaving gifts, stuffed animals, books, colorful dresses. Each time, the nurses told Leela they came from a friend, but fate had other plans. One evening, as Adrian was quietly placing a wrap box near her bed, Leela stirred awake. Her eyes lit up when she saw the tall man in a suit. "You," she gasped. "You're the one." Adrian froze. He had no reason to explain himself, but something about her innocent gaze made it impossible to lie. "Why are you doing this for me?" she whispered. Adrian knelt down, his usually cold expression softening. "Because once upon a time, I wished for a miracle too, and no one came. I don't want that for you." Leela reached out her small hand, resting it gently on his. "Then you're my prince." "My fairy tale came true." Adrian swallowed hard, emotions he had buried long ago rising to the surface. From that night onward, he no longer hid. He began reading her stories, telling her about the world outside, and listening to her dreams. What started as a chance encounter grew into something deeper. For the first time, Adrian felt needed not for his wealth, but for his heart. Weeks turned into months, and Leela's health blossomed. She laughed more, her cheeks glowed, and her imagination soared. The once pale and weak girl now danced around the hospital corridors, her storybook always tucked under her arm. Adrian became her constant companion. He arranged for tutors, brought her sketchbooks, and even built a small castle playroom in the hospital wing. Other children joined too, and soon the halls were filled with laughter. But Adrian noticed something else. Being with Leela healed him too. He found himself smiling again, something he hadn't done since his younger sister had passed away from an illness years ago, a wound that had turned him into the cold, ruthless man the world knew. Helping Leela was like rewriting the ending of a story he once lost. One evening, as the city lights twinkled outside the hospital window, Leela asked, "Adrian, do you believe in happily ever afters?" He paused. "I didn't, until I met you." Tears welled in her eyes as she hugged him tightly. But not everyone approved. Whispers spread that Adrian Kane, the untouchable billionaire, was spending his time with a poor girl in a hospital. Journalists prowled for headlines. Business partners scoffed, claiming he was wasting his time. Yet Adrian didn't care. For the first time, he was no longer living for the world's expectations. He was living for a little girl's dream. On the day Leela was finally discharged, Adrian had one last surprise. He blindfolded her gently and guided her into a car. When she opened her eyes, she gasped. Before her stood a beautiful garden filled with flowers, fairy lights, and a grand castle playhouse built just for her. Dozens of children from the hospital were there too, clapping and cheering. Adrian smiled. Every princess deserves her kingdom. Leela ran inside, her laughter echoing like music. For her, it was more than a playhouse, it was proof that fairy tales could exist. "Adrian," she said, running back to him, "you didn't just save my life. You gave me a story to live." He knelt before her, brushing a tear from her cheek. "And you gave me back my heart." From that day on, Adrian funded children's hospitals across the city, ensuring no child had to wait for a miracle. He became known not just as a billionaire, but as the man who gave sick children their fairy tales. As for Leela, she grew up strong and healthy, never forgetting the man who had turned her suffering into magic. And in the quiet moments, Adrian Kane would smile, remembering the little girl who once whispered, "My fairy tale has begun." For both of them, it truly had.